Hi, my name is Rich Schmidt. I'm here with Matt Hodges. It's March 3rd, 2020. We're at the Nicholson Library. We're interviewing Jack Tucker Warren over the phone today from his home in Arizona. Jack, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yes, sir.
Before we start, I'd just like to get your verbal permission that it's okay for us to interview you and record it today to add it to our archival collection.
Yes, you have my permission.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So let's talk a little bit about your kind of early life before Linfield. Where are you from? Where did you grow up?
I was born and raised in a little town called Miami, Arizona, in east central Arizona, a copper mining town.
And what did your parents do?
My mother was a school teacher. She graduated from Tempe Normal School, which is now ASU, in 1923. And my dad was a chemist, not by education, but by on-the-job learning, and he became the chief chemist at Miami Copper Company in the assay office.
Amazing. So what tell me about your kind of early life in high school. Did you play a lot of sports? Did you do a lot of other things?
In my early years, I think 12 or so, I had something called Osgood-Schlatter's disease, which was a thing about with your knees growing too fast and the patella tendon not keeping up. So for 2 years, I had to do nothing but sit on my butt, and my folks bought me a lapidary outfit, and I cut and polished stones. And then when my leg got well, I played football and ran on the track team for the high school.
So how did you end up at Linfield?
This friend I was telling you about John Kreisman, his father was president of American Baptist Men's Association and was personal friends with Harry Dillon. And I was up at their house doing trigonometry homework one night when he got the catalog about the school, and my folks and I had been in a gun battle about going to college or going in the military. And so when I saw that catalog and looked at it, I'd always wanted to go to the Pacific Northwest. So I went home and told my folks, okay, you win, I'm going to college, and this is where I'm going.
What was their reaction?
They really didn't. I don't care as long as I was going to school. And I actually turned down a scholarship to the University of Arizona to play my horn in their marching band. But I'd heard my older sister talk about being in lecture classes with 1,000 people in them, and I had no interest in going to a school that big.
So what were your first impressions of McMinnville and of Linfield College?
Oh, I was tickled to death. We got up there. Everything was so pretty. The red brick buildings. I was really impressed. But we were John. His dad drove us up, and he had a brand new Cadillac. So the kids that were there and saw us. Of course, down here nobody ever wore anything but Levi's, and so we stepped out of that Cadillac and Levi's and I had my hair slicked back like Elvis Presley, and I think they thought we were a bunch of hoods.
Tell me about your kind of your classes. What did you major in? What were some of your favorite classes and professors?
Oh, I majored in economics, and I started to do chemistry because that was what my dad was. He wanted me to be a CPA, so I took accounting, and that accounting professor, whose name now I didn't think I'd ever forget it, I couldn't stand him. We spent the whole first semester that year following the Sputnik travel, that first Russian that went into space. And so he was just enthralled with that. And then when we came home for Christmas, we left early because we had to ride the bus all the way down here to Arizona. And he docked me for double days off on take one. In those days, if you took a day early on ahead of a vacation, you got double hits for it. And I never forgave him for that, and so I quit taking accounting. And then I started taking chemistry from Mr. Taylor, but there was a professor by the name of Dolecki in economics, and I really liked him, and he was an excellent professor, and so I just followed through on the economics, and then my last 2 years I had Professor Hart, and he was really a great guy, and when I was a senior, there were, I think, 6 of us in the class that were married, and we had in the one class, and I can't remember which one it was, money and banking, or I don't remember, but anyway, we had the class every day at the apartment of one of the married guys, where we could relax and drink coffee, and so he was just a marvelous professor, and I think there is some award now given in his name. But and I really enjoyed, even though they were mandatory classes, I really enjoyed taking the life of Jesus and the philosophy of Christianity.
Who taught those classes? If you remember,
that?
Who taught those classes? If you remember,
I do not remember who, because it was 2 different ones. Life of Jesus was one person, and philosophy of Christianity was another. And absolutely do not remember the name.
Tell me a little bit about sort of life on campus at that point. What did you do for fun? What did you do for work at that time?
Well, our freshman year, and actually all the way through, your association with females had to be almost platonic. There was no such thing as holding hands on campus. There was no smoking on campus. Girls had to go to the second floor or up in their dormitories if they smoked. They couldn't smoke on the ground floor. And of course, there was absolutely no booze around. And even the married students just coming home from the Korean War, they would get chastised for having liquor in their own apartments. It wasn't even on campus. So, but we just did for enjoyment. We just did silly little things, and then we worked at whatever we could. We did yard work for Professor Taylor, and most anything we could do to make a couple bucks.
Mm-hmm. Were there
one of the things that I remember most is that I took a pad, and I kept track of every single penny I spent for the entire year. Tuition, books, all of that stuff. Buying socks, buying underwear, every penny I spent for the entire 9 months, and it was $1,312.
That's amazing.
And yes, by today's standards, and I think a lot of people I tell that to don't even believe me. It's and then when I started in the sports, they gave me a 3/4 ride for football and track, and then my junior year I was head resident in the dorm in Pioneer Hall. And then when I was a senior and I wasn't doing sports anymore, I lost that ride. I got married, and so I worked at a service station on Saturday nights, and I went up getting a haircut one day, and I noticed there was a barber chair, or a shoe shine chair, a double chair stand for shining shoes, and I asked the barber what he would charge me, if would he let me open that stand, and what he'd charge me for rent. And he said, "Young fella, you wash my windows and sweep my floors and have at it." So I couldn't beat an offer like that. So I shined shoes when I was a senior, and then I worked in a sawmill down at Willamina the first semester on a night crew. And I worked a job called the Green Chain, and it was absolutely the hardest job I've ever had in my life.
Can you describe it a little bit for me?
It was where the lumber came off of the saw in the different sizes, and then hit a conveyor belt, and you had to pull it off and stack it. And since I was the brand new kid on the block, I had the first station, and I had to take all of the big stuff, the 8x12s, construction timber and stuff like that, and pull them off. And I got so tired that first night that at lunchtime I threw up. I couldn't even eat my lunch. And inside of 6 weeks, I did not have a single shirt that I could put on, because I got so big in the chest and shoulders from doing that I split out all my shirts.
That's incredible.
So, and I worked after I got out of college. I worked underground in the mine back here at home, and working underground in the mine wasn't as hard as that job was on the Green Chain.
That's amazing. Amazing.
So it was a wonderful experience, and but I was really glad when they told us that due to the rain setting in, they weren't going to be able to get enough logs out of the forest to justify a second shift, so all of us got laid off, and I didn't hurt my feelings one bit. That's when I asked the guy and opened up the shoe shine stand and started shining shoes.
Incredible.
And that's when I also learned an economic lesson as to why wealthy people have money and working people don't. Because it was 2 bits for a shine, and the wealthy people in town, that's what you got was 2 bits. And on Friday nights, payday Friday nights, when the guys had come in out of the woods, the loggers, those big, heavy, dirty boots, and wanted us to shine their shoes while they were sitting in the haircut chair, they'd give us $1 and say, "Keep the change." And that's when I figured out why some people have money and some people don't.
That's amazing. So let's talk a little bit about football. Did you come to Linfield with the intention of being on the football team?
No, I wanted to, but I really didn't, because I didn't think I was big enough. And but they had about halfway through the year, the junior varsity was going up to Newburgh to play George Fox, and they didn't have enough guys, and they put out a call for volunteers. So I did, and then I played then the rest of that year, and then my sophomore and junior years, and then I didn't play when I was a senior.
So tell me about kind of your first impression of football here. Did you the first game? Did you enjoy it? Was it what you expected it to be?
Well, it was just against George Fox. They were just a little tiny school then, but I met some really good guys, and that's the main reason I guess I kept playing, because I met some guys that I really liked, and I guess centers were hard to come by, or I would have never made it, because I only weighed 160 pounds. And, most after the 2 years when we started the championship string, I never played against a guy that didn't outweigh me by at least 50 pounds. And one game we played the Seattle Ramblers was a semi-pro team, and the guy across the line from me outweighed me by an even 100 pounds. And he just beat the crap out of me for 60 minutes. But it was just an enjoyable experience, especially since we had a bunch of guys that were just back from Korea, the Army veterans and guys coming back, and they had that little extra maturity, and they were just all really great guys. And it was just to be a pleasure to be part of the locker room.
Tell me about some of your memorable teammates and maybe memorable moments with them that you can recall from that time.
Well, Howard Morris, who was the right guard, he became small college All-American. He was a great guy, and that first year, his dad owned a fishing lodge down up on the hill up above Medford, and he gave me a job for week of Easter vacation, and so which I needed, but he and his wife Ginger were both great people, and Coy Zimmerman was the quarterback, and a guy named Rick Hintz was one of the halfbacks, and a big fellow named Howard Glenn was our right end, and he went on to the pros the first, I think it was the first year of the beginning of the AFL, and he died in a hospital after a football game in Houston. And my buddy from Miami that I went with, John Kreisman, was interning in med school, and was at Methodist Hospital when they brought him, and he recognized him, and he died in the hospital. But he was a real good guy, and in fact, he died with a Tam O'Shanter hat that I lent him one night to go up to Portland. Had a date with a girl in Portland, and he loved that hat I had and asked if he could wear it, and I let him have it, and I never saw it again. And but Lemaster and Bob Flood and Howard Morris and Yogi Umbarger and Dick Fox and holy smokes, and Trutzman and Ward, and some of the guys, and there was a guy named Don Tank. He was one of the returning military veterans, and I really liked him. He was older than the rest of us, but he was a really nice guy, and I really respected him. And of course, Laurel Adams, he was on a team, and I can't just off the top of my head remember.
That's pretty impressive. You got a lot of those guys. That's pretty impressive memory right there.
But it was just a thoroughly enjoyable experience for me, and I'm certainly glad I did it.
Were there any besides playing the Ramblers? Were there any other games that stand out in your memory?
No, not teams per se. Two games stand out in my memory. Because being from Arizona, I didn't very often play on a wet field. And we went up to, Hillsboro, I think, played Pacific, and it was like a quagmire. And one time I bent over the ball, and I put too much weight on it, and it disappeared in the mud. The referee had to stop the game, get us a new ball, clean that one up, and that just shocked me. I'd never seen anything like that before. And then the last game of my junior year, the last football game I ever played, we played College of Idaho over in Caldwell, and it was 22 degrees and the ground was frozen. And I'll never forget that experience either.
Amazing.
But the other, and Willamette, Willamette was all, and Lewis and Clark were always sort of hate type games. There was a lot of discontent between Linfield and both of those schools at that time, and so they were pretty good head knockers every time we played them. And then we played the school down in Monmouth, Oregon College of Education, and the guy that played across the line from me, we just pounded on each other the whole game. And after it was over, I was sitting on the bench in the locker room, and here he comes in the dressing room. And he walked up to me, and I thought, what the hell do you want? And anyway, he introduced himself, and he had played. He said, I noticed in the program that your high school coach was Paul Petty. And I said, yeah, he was there my senior year. And this young fella had played for Petty down in Texas, whatever town it was that Petty came from. So he knew what kind of a coach Petty was and what you had to do to play for Petty. And so we had a nice visit about that. And I thought it was pretty nice of him to come over and go out of his way to come see me. And but other than that, other teams, and a lot of them I don't even remember. Most of them were in our conference that we played. A few outside teams like OCE and that Seattle semi-pro team. But and then I remember, the one guy I should have thought of a long time ago was a guy by the name of Zell Burke. He was my roommate. And after we won that conference championship in '56, we got, I think it was Bob Flood's car we were in, and we went over to Dayton. The bartender at a bar over there was a Linfield grad. Well, half of us weren't even old enough to drink, but we did, and we all got SF, and we got back to the dorm, and Spray was really out of it, and I was not far behind him. But anyway, when we got out, Bob Flood said, "Here, I'm gonna help you get Zell up to the room." And I says, "God damn it, he's my roommate. I'll get out of you. Get out of here." I'll never forget that evening. Boy, Zell and I were really out of it. And I think I was only 18. I guess I was 19. And I guess Zell was probably about the same age. But Zell was really a good guy, and I think Kreisman told me that he became a doctor or a missionary, something over in Africa. I think he was from La Grande, Oregon, and he took me home for Thanksgiving that year and asked me if I wanted to go duck. I said, "Well, sure." So I think the name was a Grand Round River up there. Anyway, a little two-man rubber raft, and his dad took us out on this road to a bridge, and we put the raft in the creek, and we're going to float down through these fields to the next bridge down below and try to flush the ducks on the way down through there. Well, we got about halfway down there, and the river was frozen, and we had to pull the boat out and walk the rest of the way. Just, little stuff like that is really what made it such a wonderful experience.
Sure.
And I'll never ever be sorry that I did that.
So let's talk about the 56 season a little bit more. That was the first time Linfield had won the league championship in quite a while, and obviously it started.
I think if I remember correctly, I think it was the first time the first time since 1935 or the first time in 35 years.
1935 is correct. It had been 21 years since they had done it. And of course, do you remember anything else about that season? Was there how did people react to winning the league title? Did anything change for the program after that?
Remember about what people did about what?
How did the team and the coaches and fans respond to winning the league championship that year? Was it a pretty big deal?
Oh, it was. Well, like I said, that the night after that last game, and we realized we'd won it. That's the night we went over to Dayton and got slammed. As I recall, the school did because we all got red jackets with that embroidered on the front of them about being conference champions. And I still have that jacket. Only difference is that I can't get in it now. I think if I lose 20, 25 pounds, I probably could wear it again. But we all got one of those. And but other than that, I don't recall that there was a whole lot of hoorah about it. But I really thought it was nice of them to have those jackets made for us. And but that was about the extent of what I recall, anyway, of any extra attention given to the fact that we'd won.
And then the next season, the 1957 season, was a really big one for you guys as well. So, did anything?
Yes.
Was there anything about the program that had changed at that time, or was it just a case of having a bunch of good players at the right time?
Well, I think it was because we didn't lose a whole lot of instrumental seniors. I think the bulk of us were, underclassmen, and we still had a really good core of a team, and and I never played defense. And so, or I did once in a while, but the only reason I got to play was because I could accurately snap the ball back to a punter or extra point holder. Because the other centers on the team were actually probably better football players than I was and bigger, but it was limited substitution in those days. I think you only got 3 substitutions per quarter. So Durham had to jockey us around a bit since I had never played defense in high school, and so he knew I wasn't going to be much of a defensive player, but he had to use me until it got into position where he needed something different. But with those minimum number of substitutions per quarter, he had to figure that out pretty carefully, and which he must have done because we still won.
Let's talk a little bit about Coach Durham. Do you remember your first impressions of him?
Not much. I never did care much for him, and mainly for that reason is that he instead of working with guys like me, where I could have been an asset on defense, he just accepted the fact that he had to plan around me. That didn't make sense to me. But everybody, I know everybody else thought he was wonderful, and he did a damn good job for Linfield over the years. And then he went to Hawaii, didn't he?
He did, yes.
Yeah, I guess he had decent teams in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm. Yep, he did.
But for some reason, and it may have been a personality thing, but I just never could warm up to him. I think wasn't Ad Rutschman one of our assistant coaches?
He might have been at some point. He came back in there at some point. I'm not exactly sure when.
Yeah, I really liked him and admired him. But I don't know. Durham just, I don't know, he just seemed to me to be a little aloof and above all of us. But he was just so much different from the coach I had in high school, I guess, that I just didn't really care much about him.
Mm-hmm.
But it's obviously that he had something going for him because we played so well for him, and then I guess after I left and graduated, they had obviously good teams after that also.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about your life after Linfield. You mentioned you got married during college. How did you meet your wife?
At Linfield.
At Linfield?
In my economic class, yeah. And then I came back home to Arizona, which was a shock for her because she was a Seattle girl. And I went to work underground in a mine in the neighboring town because back in those days, if you got on a good contract crew, you could make $100 a day. And so she was carrying our first child, and I wanted to go down to the University of Arizona for a master's. So I just decided to go to work underground and work and put away enough money so when I went for my master's, all I had to do was go to school. I wouldn't have to work. Mm-hmm. Well, my dad was furious. Why in the hell did you go to college if you're going to come back home and go to work in the mine? And so anyway, we thrashed that out. But anyway, about the end of summer, the union went on strike and was out on strike for 6 months. Went back to work for 2 cents an hour less than they were offered before the strike. And anyway, my landlord, who was my high school history teacher, belonged to the Church of Christ, and they were building a new one in a neighboring town of Globe. And he got me a job, so I was a hod carrier for the block masons on that church. And then in 60, the strike was over, and then the company asked me to come upstairs and go to work in the office upstairs. And of course, my wife and my family were all for that, getting out of the mine. So I did, and then I became the head of personnel labor relations 4 years after that. And then I was helping an FBI agent out of Mesa. He was working a case on one of our underground supervisors, a guy that we needled all the time because he always had a brand new Cadillac, Chrysler, or Lincoln. And we thought, how in the hell on your kind of wages can you afford that? Well, it turns out he was part of a 3-state car ring, stolen car ring, Arizona, Nevada, and California. So I helped this agent with a bunch of stuff about him, got subpoenaed to a trial in Las Vegas that didn't happen because the guys finally pled guilty. But anyway, he said, you ever thought about the FBI? And I said, yeah, I have a lot. And said, in fact, I remember 8th grade graduation, they asked what you wanted to do, and I put down, I want to be an FBI agent someday. Well, when he offered me that, I took it, and Mr. Hoover accepted me, and on July the 8th of 1968, I raised my right hand and became an FBI agent. And I went to Salt Lake City after new agents training, went to Salt Lake City for a year, and then to L.A., and I was only in L.A. for 7 months and got transferred out to Palm Springs because the guys out there had recovered all the stuff stolen in a burglary at Cowboy Hall of Fame. And that was near and dear to me because I had a rancher who married one of my cousins, is the only actual working cowboy ever taken into the Cowboy Hall of Fame. So that meant something to me. And anyway, I got transferred down to Palm Springs and stayed there until '89, and then during the Carter administration, they put in a deal where they put a mandatory age 55 retirement on agents, and so that changed my whole lifestyle plan. And I got called by an old agent friend who worked for Southern California Edison, said they had an opening, and if I would take it, they'd give me an office right in the Palm Springs area, and I could work the same territory out there that I'd worked for the Bureau. So I retired and took it. And then I retired from that in '05 after 16 years. So I had 37 years in California, and then I came back in this little town I live in now called Oracle. I had made up my mind in 1945 when I was 8 years old that I was going to live there someday. So in '05, I bought a house here and we moved over here. Been here ever since.
That's incredible. Why did you want to live in Oracle?
Well, my older sister is 10 years older than me, and there were two routes we could go from our hometown of Miami to Tucson, and coming through Oracle was one of them. And it's just, it's about 4,700 feet elevation, and it's on the northeast banks of Mount Lemmon, and it's just full of oak trees, and I don't know, I just fell in love with it, and I decided to want to live here, so I am.
That's incredible. That is incredible. Thank you so much for sharing all that. That's quite a life story after Linfield.
Thank you.
But
it's been things have been good to me. I got a lovely wife and two outstanding kids, and it's I really have nothing to bitch about for my life.
I'm curious about your kind of experience as a Linfield alum. Did you follow the football team much after you graduated?
Who's that?
Did you follow the Linfield football team much after you graduated?
I tried, but these papers down here, the Arizona Republic is what we got, and I very, very seldom ever saw a Linfield score in that paper. And so then, I can't remember what year it was, 95, 96, something, when broke the record, started when they passed Notre Dame. Was that? Yeah, that was in the mid-90s, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yes.
Well, I got a call one day from my son, and he said, "Hey, Dad, Linfield just set a new all-time record for winning seasons consecutive, just past Notre Dame." And he told me how many years, whatever it was, 46 or something. So I thought back and I said, hell, that was 1956. I was on that team. He said, why do you think I'm calling you? So it was yeah. And then I've now, this paper down here in Tucson does a better job, and so I've been following them more closely after that.
When you made that realization that you've been on the team that started that streak, what were your thoughts? What was your reaction to that?
Well, I just you don't when those kind of things happen, you don't think in terms of that far in the future. And I thought to myself, well, you learn over the course of 4 years here at Linfield that it's basically above average quality people that go to Linfield. And so it's not, it really didn't surprise me, to tell you the truth, that they were able to carry on like that. But also makes you very proud. And and I have, and that's why I really wondered, to be honest with you, why what we're doing right now wasn't done prior to homecoming this past year. There could have been some note of it made at the homecoming game. But I really did appreciate and like the thing about having us all go out there and form the lines for the young fellas to run through coming out of the tunnel. I thought that was pretty cool.
Excellent. Yes, absolutely. Glad we're getting to it now, at least.
What's that?
I'm glad we're getting to this now. I'm glad we're getting to celebrate that team now. Sorry, it took a little while to get there.
Yeah, well, the only thing that, there are just some guys like Howard Morris, who is gone now, that I wish something had happened that would have included guys like him, because I know that over the years there have been more All-Americans, and maybe a lot of those are still alive, but Howard, Howard was a personal friend and a fraternity brother, and no, he wasn't a fraternity brother, I don't think. I think he was ATO. I would, just hoping that guys like that would have, like him, would have had that recognition.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. I'm curious if you were talking to someone and all they knew about Linfield was this streak, what would you want that to represent from the school? Like, how would you want Linfield?
When I tell people about it, most of them never heard of Linfield, so I make sure that they know where it is and what it is, and how much I appreciate having been there for 4 years.
As you kind of look ahead for Linfield, what do you hope for the future for the college and for the football program?
Well, I hope that they both do well, and I see now where the new president talked to us at homecoming in October about the possibility of becoming a university, and now I see that is, I guess, is going to be a happening now, I guess, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Probably this fall.
Okay, and I'm happy for that. That'll probably, of course. I really would hate to see it become, a really big school.
I don't think there's any.
I think a lot of the quality and charm are the fact that it's not a great, huge school.
I don't think you have to worry too much about that. I don't think the size is going to change too much.
Oh, good. That's good. And I think, and of course, if it doesn't change size, they will always have sports teams at the same level in relation to other schools that we have now, but they can still excel at them like they have for the past 60 years. And to me, that's fine.
Absolutely. You want to ask? Well, thank you so much, Jack. We really appreciate your time today and sharing all your stories with us. And we're going to go ahead and wrap up recording here and let you off the hook.
Okay, and I sure do appreciate you thinking of me and including me in this. And I hope it turns out to be a real good deal for you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop recording now.